this is Principal Bob, and I am coming to you from the Crossroads studio in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. And I'm with my brother Pat, who's coming to you from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. How you doing, Pat?
I am doing fantastic. Just waiting for the snow to start momentarily here. So it's all good.
Okay. Yeah, we got about 3 or 4 days of snow coming here as well. And today is kind of a follow-up podcast, Pat, from last week. Last week it was all about the Germans are coming, and it was pretty heavy with BMW and Mercedes and all
A
that
little bit of
stuff, and little
Audi
Audi
thrown in
there, a little
there.
bit of
Yeah,
Audi.
and today's is more like the Germans are coming, sort of. And today's episode is dealing with a sort of. And of course, that is.
VW, beloved VW. Pat and I are huge VW fans. We always have been. We have owned many, many VWs, and I have fond memories of my Scirocco and my GTI, and my VW bus and my two ID4s. And actually, the list just goes on and on. And Pat is also a huge VW guy. What's your history, Pat?
Yeah, well, my second car was a 77 VW Rabbit, and then I had an 84 GTI, and yeah, and then of course driving all our brother's stuff as well. So I've
Yeah.
been around VW for a while, and right now I own an ID4 right now, a 21 original ID4, and it's been a good car, but when we talked about that the Germans were coming and the tech was coming up, and yep, I think that's all true. But VW in the electric world is just simply struggling.
Yeah.
Last year, if we look at their sales numbers, and just really just kind of looking at the ID4 from year to year, from 23 to 24, even their own data says their sales in ID4 was down. I find it hard to believe, almost 94%, Bob. Shocking. Can you tell us why the ID4, which was a darling on a wait list where people were waiting months to get it, and now it just the sales dropped off. And in fact, I think right now, so far in quarter 4 of 2024, they've managed to sell 646.
Yeah, and you know, uh, VW has struggled with the ID4 when it first came out. So let me talk a little bit about the history of the ID4. When that car was first announced, there were just tons of people who signed up on a list and put deposits down. My little store, Ed Carroll, located in beautiful Fort Collins, Colorado. There
Still
was
a
over
good store.
320 ID4s were on the wait list. And then the issue was VW just couldn't produce them. And people waited and waited, and many people, to be quite frank, dropped off the list. They went and bought something else because they had to wait too long. So that wasn't a really a very good start for the ID4. And when the ID4 did come, it was a really pretty good car. It had been built for a couple years in Germany. They had a lot of the bugs worked out of that car. One thing about being the poor stepchild of VW, that is the United States, uh, is that they do test the cars thoroughly in Europe, produce them in Europe. The Europeans are driving them all over the place, and then we finally get them. And so the bugs were worked out. But
And no
as
pun intended with the word bug, but
yeah, well,
in
they were
VW, but
yeah,
I'll be
and
honest, my 21 Bob is what excellent car, right? Really well made, comfortable. Um, because it was on the wait list car, it was a 21. We didn't get it until 22. It was January of 22 before the car finally showed up. But once we got it, it was a really nice car, comfortable, quiet. But it was a 21, so there's no battery preconditioning. There's none of the things that a lot of people want now. But nonetheless, in 21 and 22, pretty good cars.
yep, I agree with that. We had some issues when the 23s came out of Chattanooga because those cars did have a lot of issues. And they continue to have issues. That's one of the reasons why VW sales were so low last year. It wasn't because people didn't necessarily want those cars. The problem was they weren't available. Every single VW ID4 was pulled from the lots because they were continually having problems, safety issues, particularly with the doors. And so, they basically withdrew all those cars for months. VW didn't sell electric cars in the United States for months and months and months. All right. And so now they're back. And so you're starting to see sales. And along with that car, we have the Buzz. And I love the Buzz. I've driven them now. I did a little video on them. That is a well-made car. And the software is way better than the Buzz, which was also, I mean, than the ID4, which was also a problem. So that car I'm really impressed with. Now, once again, that car's made in Germany, in Hanover, where the originals were made, and they're putting out quality cars. The issue is going to be production totals, right? How many of those are we going to get if they're all built in Hanover, Germany? So that's kind of the issue with that. And then we're going to talk about a car that broke my brother's heart, the ID7. Talk to me a little bit about the ID7 that never came.
Yeah, well, the ID7 is a sedan, and they also made a what they call an estate version, right? Which is a cool wagon. And that was supposed to come to the United States in 2020, end of 23, beginning of 24. And it certainly came out in Europe in the 24, was well received. It is out at about the same time now that the 24 ID4, which was refreshed and is much better car with software. But the ID7 has wonderful aerodynamics. It has very efficient motors. It's a long range car. Realistically, it's a car that does well over 300 miles, and Europeans are reporting that. And I looked at that car, and if you nice sedan, very efficient, very comfortable, long distance machine. And frankly, I was interested in one. I especially wanted to see what they look like. Well, now VW has announced that nope, not coming to America. Unlike Eddie Murphy, it will not be coming to America. And it's disappointing that
Yeah.
really one of their star electrics isn't coming. And then now on top of it, VW has announced that they're going to create the ID2. And if you look at it, it looks like kind of an old school GTI. It's a little smaller. It does have rear doors, but they're kind of hidden within the architecture of the car. And they're going to come out with a GTI version, but guess what? Again, not coming to America. Now, VW sales overall were up last year, about 15% from 23 to 24. So they are selling their Atlases and Tiguans and Tauses, but when it comes to electrification, and one of the things that VW was supposed to be a leader in, they're going to be a leader in it. I believe that, but it ain't going to be here, and that is just really disappointing. And if you just look at the VW nameplate, I feel like VW is like, whoa, we're not America's not ready for us, and we're not ready for America. Therefore, we're not going to put much effort into us. And Bob and I have talked about this. We kind of feel like a disrespected market by VW when it comes to these things. Bob, you want to add anything to
Yeah,
my
and
tirade?
and this isn't the first time we've been jilted at the altar, you know. Uh, to be honest, you know, we were
My feelings are
Europe's
hurt, Bob.
yeah, Europe's had Scirocco's for years after they pulled it from the American market. That's an example of something that wasn't brought to this country, and it would have been awesome. It would have simply been awesome. So this is a pattern of VW. We get cars late, we get cars pulled, but instead, I think VW, i.e. Scout, they're going a completely different direction in America, and in a good way. This is a super positive. Why don't we start talking a little bit about the Scout, which is going to become another part of the VW empire? Go ahead, Pat.
Well, first of all, it's like no sedans for you. I mean, that's really kind of what we're getting. We're getting some buzzes, but instead, VW, wants to let everybody know they have not abandoned the American market. And in fact, with this new Scout Duo, the Traveler and the Terra that is on the near future, they're showing that we are going to get some things that the Europeans may well not see. Right now, VW is investing in a large plant in South Carolina, and they are looking at producing new models for 28 that will actually start production in 27, they say. And I know Bob and I are going to hold our breath a little bit because
Yeah,
again, like
yeah.
like like the ID4, it'll be a new factory, not only a new factory, but a completely new vehicles. But so far, the early reviews of prototypes have been pretty positive. But it's totally different, so different that they're really not associating the VW name with it, other than the fact that it's VW money behind this new group, which is the Scout Group. So what are we going to get for around a starting price that they're telling us of $60,000? Well, what we're going to get are two vehicles that are basically old school body on frame vehicles. And honestly, they're showing the models of these with 35-inch tires. I mean, they have a solid rear axle in them, dual motor. I mean, they really do look amazing. And what I really like about them is that they're taking the old Scout name, which stopped production in the United States in 1980, and they're really going back to them a good mixture of old school looks, right? I mean, when you look at them, for crying out loud, there's going to be a front bench seat available. How cool is that? I mean,
Yeah.
just like your grandfather's old International Harvester Scout, that's what it's one of the options going to be. So let's look at these vehicles, and just I'm going to just share a few of the numbers with you. The Terra, which is the truck version, is going to be about 229 inches in length, and have a girth of 91.6 inches. That's what they're listing. And really, to put that in perspective, that vehicle is going to be probably just a little smaller than a Tundra. So, and as you know, the new Tundras, especially the quad cabs, that's a huge vehicle. So they're coming out with a full electric. They're saying that this vehicle is going to have a range of right around 350 miles. And then the Traveler, which is the SUV version, looks like it's going to come in under the size of a Rivian R1S, their large SUV. The Traveler will come out to about 207 inches. They've got a rear tire that folds out old school a la Jeep, and then you have to open that up first before you can access the back door. And with that, that's similar range to the R1S. And so, these are big vehicles. Now, with that 350-mile all-electric range, uh, Scout is doing something really smart. And again, these are made for the American market, and they are going to be optioning these with what they call the harvester option. Bob, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the harvester option is simply we're going to put in a motor that does not drive the wheels, but simply generates power. And it puts it back into the main battery and extends the range of this car to 500 miles. And, this is a good option. It really is for people who really need to tow and need that range, because really to build a car that or a truck particular that has 400-mile range or 500-mile range in our current technology takes a whopping huge battery that just makes the truck super heavy, i.e. the Silverado, right now, less maneuverable, but it has the range. This is a good idea. It doesn't completely get rid of gas engines, which I'd love to see. But I would consider buying the 350-mile version. I really would.
Okay.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's just take a break and hold the phone. Uh, Not literally. This is why I don't have it in the studio very often. But
And I'm not often in the studio either because I can tell right now his chair's taller than mine, and
yes,
I feel disrespected.
yeah, no, it's just I have the best chair because it's my studio. I gave you the bad chair, But anyway,
That's the way it goes.
hey, we're interrupting the podcast here, and we've cut away to my studio where Pat has joined me here because when we originally filmed this podcast, a lot of information hadn't come out yet, and now what's happened is uh, we have way more information. And instead of putting out an inaccurate podcast, we want to give you the most up to date. So we're taking a break in this video and we're going to insert some of the new information about what we've learned about the new vehicles coming out of IH International Harvester. All right, so the modern version of it, the Scout. So tell me a little bit, Pat, what you've learned over
Well,
the
I
past
think the
week.
biggest thing is that Scott Kehoe, who's the CEO of Scout, has now done a number of interviews with automotive magazines. He's actually gone on a couple of trucker websites and done some things with podcasts. And then the ultimate is that he did did about a 30-minute video with Jay Leno in Jay Leno's garage, which was really cool. And in the process, we just learned a lot. And so we're going to go back to our discussion now of some of the things that are unique with the Scout vehicles coming out, particularly the E-Rev option. And one of the things I learned is that battery size that, he now gave a little better impression. He talked about how the battery is going to be a more conventional lithium ion type battery chemistry for the battery electric version, but the E-Rev version is going to have an LFP, lithium phosphate iron complex battery, which is a lot easier to produce, a lot simpler, has some nice advantages. But I mean, you generally don't get the strict performance you would out of a conventional battery. And he also talked about the fact that they are going to use some kind of in-house, Volkswagen Group, right, battery or engine, and that engine's probably going to be, my guess is it's going to be the 1.5 liter motor that's made. Right now, it's being made out of Mexico, but the 1.5 is just a very simple motor. And again, these motors are can be small and simple because you don't need to put a turbocharger on it. You don't need to hook it up to an air conditioning system. You don't have to have a big heat exchanger or anything else that you would normally do if the E-Rev motor, remember that extended range electric vehicle system, was going to propel the wheels. It's not. It's a big generator that just generates power, puts it back in that battery. And the E-Rev battery, again, is going to be probably around the 70 to 80 kilowatt hours.
Yep. So we're going to put a smaller battery in the unit that has the auxiliary engine that produces power. That engine will not be turbocharged. We also kind of found that out. And it's going to be very simple. It's not a new model, right? I mean, if you went out and bought an older i3, you'd find a 600 cc engine parked in the back right out of a BMW scooter made in China. And that does the same thing. It took a vehicle that might get 120 miles and turned it into a vehicle that gets 200. So not a brand new model.
No, but he did come out and say some things, and one of the reasons why they're doing it is because he argues that it's going to put people in the butts of a electric vehicle with the range extender that would never even have considered an electric vehicle. They're estimating that they'll increase their market by 40%, their sales 40%, I mean, with this E-Rev option. But there were some things that he also talked about that kind of concerned me. And the number one thing is that he's saying right now their estimates for towing capacity, for example, where the normal Terra probably is in the 10 to 11,000 pound towing capacity. this is going to be down to about 5,000. And I'm having a hard time imagining a true
Yeah.
trucker looking at that and saying, wait a second, 5,000 pound limit. I want to pull my 30-foot camper. I want to pull my
Yeah.
huge 30-foot boat, to get it somewhere. And so a lot of the commentary on that I've read about is that, well, the phone, because, Volkswagen's done a good job. I'm sorry, Scout has done, see, I did it myself.
Mhm.
Scout has done a good job
Yeah.
of reacting to the market. And I firmly believe, at least I think they will. I'd be surprised if they don't get that figure up. But again, that's pure
Yeah,
speculation, Bob,
yeah,
on my
because
part.
it would be disappointing at only 5,000, because it's a big truck. I mean, it's a pretty much a full-size vehicle, and so they're going to have to find a way to tow that up, whether it's to put a little bigger engine in the rear, but they're going to have to get that up so it smoothly can move from electric to gas in terms of producing enough power into that battery to keep up that force to tow more than 5,000 pounds.
Yeah,
The other thing he really clarified is he talked about the dealership network. And this really is going to be a completely separate line of cars from VW, just like Audi is a separate line, Porsche is a separate line from the VW group. For that matter, so is Bugatti, and Ducati and a ton of other cars
Bentley.
that are all part of the VW group. This just becomes one more branch of the VW group, and their intention is it's not going to be using the repair shops that VW currently has, which will concern me because it takes a while to build a good network of repair shops, and usually the cars come out before that happens. And the other thing I'm concerned a bit with is, when Pat and I had Teslas, we learned via video, right? That's the online market. When you sell a car online, you make a bunch of videos, and people watch about 10 or 12 videos, and then they're supposed to drive the car, and that works great. Sorry about that, Pat.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
that
trying to hit me.
let me get this up.
I wasn't even
Let me
talking.
get this back more towards me instead of you. Uh, that concerns me because Pat and I were really good at technology. We may be old, but we were always geeks, right? He and I were both the first guys who owned computers in the schools that we taught in. That's the kind of stuff we were. You give us a gadget and we love it. But I've learned from experience that a lot of people who are moving to electric really aren't all that technical, and they need a lot of support. I mean, that's
It's
basically what
coaching,
I do.
right?
Yeah,
It's coaching.
it's coaching. And some people don't learn well from videos. And heck, I got customers who come in and don't even know what YouTube is as a platform. So that kind of concerns me because there's a lot of people who are now buying electrics that I don't think are going to embrace necessarily that Tesla model where they don't have help right there with them.
Yeah, and let's be honest, that same issue, transferring knowledge. I mean, that really kind of killed the rental industry for electric cars on its own. Oh, you want to rent a Tesla? Here are the keys. Have a nice day. And people would get in the car and who had never been in an electric car before, or our experience, we rented Ionics and whatever, but they have a bad experience because they're literally thrown in the deep end of the pool without that
Right.
background. And part of that, Scott talked about, that they are going to do a very good job of trying to set up, trainings and for people to know. And I think one of the unique things about Scout in a lot of ways is what they're trying to do with their software. Obviously, Rivian received a lot of money. How many billions was that, Bob?
Like $5.8 billion
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah, and a lot of that is for software. So Scott talked about how their base software in the Scouts will be Rivian, that foundation, and he wants that largely because Rivian does over-the-air updates, and specifically was addressing the serviceability. He said, we're not going to have a traditional dealer network, so we're going to want to be able to do a lot of the service a la Rivian, which is over-the-air updates, which honestly for electric cars is the best way to go. And then on top of that, he said that, yep, the VW Group, not Volkswagen of America, but the VW Group has its own company, CarAd, which is also going to help with some of the look of it, but all the user experience, meaning everything that you're going to see on the screen and the types of things that we want in our vehicles is really going to be developed by Scout. So they're going to do all the UX themselves, which I think is impressive.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. One of the things that you're going to see happen here is there was a lot of talk about lawsuits that were going to happen. That VW was going to sue,
VW of America
America was
or
going
the
to sue.
dealership specifically.
Yeah, because they're not going to get a piece of the scalp, but that's probably not going to happen at all because nobody's suing Ducati, nobody's suing Bugatti, nobody's suing all of these other lines that the VW house holds. It'll just be one more brand, and it'll be independent, and it's not going to be part of VW of
And
America.
and I get why VW dealers would want this, right? I mean, we started the beginning of this video talking about how, Volkswagen looks like at least in the electric field, outside of the buzz, we're not getting much. And we still have an ID4, and that's it. So I can see where the Volkswagen dealerships are saying, "Whoa, we would love a piece of that pie." But in strict sense of the word, I think Volkswagen Group kind of sees the writing on the wall with what other
Yep.
companies are doing through direct sales and how successful that is. And so that's where they want to move. And unfortunately, for great VW dealerships that we know, like right here in Fort Collins, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Ed Carroll,
Ed Carroll,
VW.
they're not going to get part of that action, and I get their frustration, but legally, I think they're between a rock and a hard place, and hopefully Volkswagen will help them out down the road. But right now, this is what they're doing. Volkswagen of America will be left on its own, and Scout is just going to be, again, like any of the other Volkswagen Group brands.
Which is why it's important, as we talked about in the beginning of the video today, that VW gives some of those brand new cars they're designing, like the ID.7, and brings them to America because that is the future of VW, and they need to bring those cars here and not be afraid to sell a sedan here uh, because it's just their best technology and they need to introduce that and intertwine that. And you put the ID.7 and the Buzz and the ID.4 together. That's a pretty impressive
Or,
group.
or Bob, how about an E-Rev Buzz?
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, that
I
would.
mean, that would do that. I just talked to a gentleman who works at our local Madison East Side VW dealership, and he's like, "Yep, people, these are great vehicles and whatever, but people are concerned about the range, even though." Give credit to VW, when they say that has a 230-mile range, it really does. And Kyle Connor and the boys, out of spec have done tests with it and pretty much shown it's over 200 miles.
And I got even a simpler solution. Just put 20 more kilowatts
Yeah,
into
there you
that car,
go. GM
and
solution.
the problem is solved. Either way. But that's why we interrupted our previous podcast, inserted Bob and Pat at Crossroads Studio, and now back to the other section because that was pretty good, and we don't want to do another take.
There you go.
And this is how VW is going to say to Pat and myself, we're not forgetting the American market. We're not bypassing the American market. We have decided to create a brand new company that makes electric vehicles that is just for the American market. And so this is supposed to make me feel better about no ID.7. And I love the Buzz. I think the Buzz is a great thing. If it, 20 miles more range, it would be perfect. I think that the other thing that's impressive about this in closing is that it took them 10 years to get that Buzz out. It took a long, long time. It's going to be a much quicker trip to get these trucks out. They are moving at lightning speed. They did not make this much progress this quickly with the Buzz, nowhere near it. So that's a positive. And at this point, I really want to thank Pat once again because he did the brunt of the research on this for me. And he's also so passionate about VW, so am I, that we really care about this brand. The other thing is that hey, if you like this podcast, please subscribe to the Electric Principal channel. Also, share this on social media. We would really, really appreciate that, and we appreciate you joining us and be part of the conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts. When you see this thing put up in a podcast, what you're thinking about VW and its future and where it's going, and what you think of the Scout. And last but not least, Scout's got some great advertisements they've already put out, and I'm going to put a link below to one of these ads that's a real tearjerker with dad and daughter and the last Scout leaving and the new Scout coming in, and it's got CCR playing in the background. You can't beat that. So once
Yeah,
again,
but I'm still, when that first one comes out, baby, I'm gonna stick Farfanugan stickers on the back of it. I
yeah,
just
there
think
you
that would
go.
be cool. There you go.
There you go. It's still a VW. Hey, Bentley's a VW, right? Think of all the brands they own. They've owned like 13 different brands. It's crazy. And the Scout's going to be the next brand to join the crew. So once again, thanks for joining us.
And just
Hey,
remember, don't drive like an old man like my brother.
and don't speed too much because in electric cars you can get a lot of tickets, like my brother. We'll see you later. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.